Alright, what's going on, you guys? So I want to talk about my brooder here. So I originally came upon the idea because I started looking at other people, specifically like 5 Acre Farms. I'm going to quote him a lot. I watch him a lot. But he has his brooders along the floor, and they're all 2 foot by 4 foot, and he likes to use lights. And so I really started thinking about it. I'm like, why couldn't I make it vertical? So I want to preface, I have a 4 foot by 4 foot brooder right next to it. And this is one that I use a heat lamp for. And the thing that I run into, especially living in Indiana, which I don't know how he does it in Kansas, I think the room is climate controlled. Anyways, what I run into is that the temperature fluctuates so much that where the heat lamp hits the ground, in the morning it's 90 degrees, during the day, the heat of the day, it's 120, and then at night it's 90. And it's really hard to control the temp while I'm not here. You know, not everyone has the ability to be at home or to have help. Like, my wife does stay at home, but we have 2 babies. You know, it's really difficult for her to get out here. So I started thinking about this. I was like, a lot of what I enjoy doing is thinking about how I could make my life easier. So that's how I arrived to this. So I was like, why couldn't I make a 2 foot by 4 foot stacked? I'm like 6 foot tall. I'm taller than 6 foot, so I can see the top one. I was like, I could still take care of them. I'm like, why couldn't I? And then, so then I started thinking about heat sources. And originally I had, in this brooder, I had a 250 watt bulb, which is possibly why it got so dang hot. Anyways, and I was raising it significantly. I mean, I would move it a foot in a day. And it's just too much work, especially for such a small amount of chicks that I had in here at the time. Anyway, so I came upon the idea of building a vertical brooder because of the, hatch time. So this is just OSB. It's really cheap. But what's really nice about OSB is that you can seal it, and then it's less likely to degrade. Plus, these are just chicks. And I put stuff down. Like, this 4x4 has a tarp that's wrapped all the way around it. I'll show it in just a second. And I found out that that's actually the best for it. I thought about making like tarp-like trays for this, but I just haven't gotten that far yet. I built a lean-to. I've done a bunch since then. Anyway, so I also figured out I want a latch that really locks, something that really gets it. And I found these on Amazon. They were like 6 for $6. They're like a roughly $1 a piece. And the hinges, for all 6 hinges, I think it works out to be like $6, something like that. Anyway, so this is out in my garage. So I don't know if I mentioned it, but I don't necessarily have climate control out here. I have a salamander that's running on diesel fuel, which, as you guys know now, diesel fuel is insane. Luckily, the weather has been cooperating, so it hasn't been running that much, and I really haven't had to buy it since it was $3.20. I had a bunch. I have like 10 gas tanks. Anyway, so these vent holes are just temporary. They're just, honestly, I think they're just for my brain to think that they're getting enough ventilation. It's just some. It works out. Okay, but I built these, and then I started thinking about heat. Okay, so how am I going to heat it? And I was like, I can buy ceramic, like the porcelain sockets, and I can wire the sockets. So that's what I did. I originally wired. I used some old extension cord. Really, I don't know why. I think it's just the wire I had at the time. Well, I had more, but that's just what I wanted to use. So I bought a bunch of porcelain sockets, and I'm trying to think, like plug-ins, and I think that's really it. I used all the hooks from, I think, the lights that I hung out in the barn, so I reused those. That's what I hung the lights in here with. Anyway, so I'll just show you a little bit, which it might be easier if I raise you up some. Leaving now. All right. So, we're just going to show you one of these guys. We'll tilt you, if I can. There we go. We'll call that. Okay. So this is one of the little brooder areas. This is just a piece of trim currently holding it in. Anyway, so I use these porcelain sockets. And originally I was trying to raise and lower those every single day. And I was like, that's not sustainable. I actually had, I put some quail, there's some quail up in the top one. I had a quail chick die, and I'm really anal retentive about my my temp gauge. I sit there and come in here and click it all the time. And it is just too much work to be coming out here. So that's where I was like, okay, how could I combat this? And that's where I arrived with this guy, which I guess I can control it. Anyways, so this is just a cheap controller off of Amazon. It was roughly $5. They're all $5, which is insane. These guys are all crazy. Because, I don't know, I just feel like this is a more expensive technology. But I started thinking about it. I originally just put heat lamps in here, 100-watt heat bulbs. But heat bulbs only produce heat when the light is on. But similar to cast iron, I actually have some ceramic bulbs in here. You can kind of see. Anyways, what this ceramic bulb does is it actually retains the heat. So my thermostat is actually buried in there. I probably should clean this up. I feel like all I do is clean up after these guys, but there's a lot of chicks in this one. Anyway, but the ceramic bulb maintains the heat. You can see right here it's actually cooling down because I have it open. But so I bought a 100-watt bulb over here on this side, which is kind of harder to find, and a 100-watt ceramic bulb. So like in total, I think those were like $2 a piece because of the Menards rebate. The wire's free. The end was $2. So for each tier, it's like $6. I think that's $3.50, and this is $3.50. So roughly $7.13. I used 3 sheets of OSB, which end up being, I'm trying to think how much it ended up costing. I think they're $8 a sheet. It's like 3 1/4. Not everyone can do that, but you can buy a 2x4 like ready panel. So that I think works up to be, it's like $24, something like that, which is really cheap considering. So 24, 13, 13, 13 plus 5, 15. It sounds like a lot, but now I get to just set my temperature based on the week, and I actually have a whiteboard over there of when they hatched and the temps that I need to drop it down. Unfortunately, it's in Celsius, but I'm not going to complain. The reason I don't want to use heat plates, and I think he covered this, it's because heat plates only emit heat from the area that they emit down, essentially. So the chicks have to touch it. And I'm in the garage, and it drops down cold in here. I mean, 30 degrees. But these stay warm because of the lights. And lights emit, and it's almost like base. It's omnidirectional. And because of that, I'm trying to think how much time it'll take. I'll just go back in. I'll come back. So anyways, I think I left off when I was talking about how the infrared lights are omnidirectional with their heat pattern. So a lot of times whenever they talk about, especially if you think about heat plates, is like there's only a small amount and you can only have so many chicks with that, whereas this entire cabinet's warm. And I have thought about insulating the entire outside and having a vent that's I can flip open and close, but I just choose to clean it out more frequently than not. Anyways, so that's why I picked heat lamps, is because it's the heat source, essentially. It heats the area, which they still technically, with them being so far apart, they do have a spot right in the middle to where they can cool off. And I try to keep it at like the lower threshold. So they say like 90 to 95 for the first week. So I keep it at like 91. Sorry. I just have never seen the cat use the door, which kind of scared the crap out of me. He is obsessed. So we actually adopted him. Trying to think, a few weeks ago, I had a stray cat, and looking for eggs, I scared it away, and it actually hid in my truck, and I ran it over. And I was really upset, which is funny because I never get upset over a stray cat. I think maybe I've already talked about this, but we went and picked up Oscar, and he is such a good cat. And I hate cats. That's not a cat. That's a good cat. Anyways, that's not the point. So, this is where I'm at. So, in between these three, so I think the bottom has, you probably can't see, the bottom has kind of a mix, which is confusing because some of these look like dang, man. I'll show you, see if you can see. This might be crooked. So this guy right here looks like a black copper Moran chick with a white eye and white wingtips, which is crazy. He's the only one. Huh. I'm not convinced he isn't. But some of these throw that gene. You can see this one right here has that white top to his head. So a lot of these are meat birds, which have already grown exponentially in the past few days, which is kind of wild, because I never expected to see them grow this much. But about 13, they're about getting ready to move out of there. I think there are 36 in here, something like that, which isn't super crazy. They're only going to be in here. This one, I think I'm actually going to get ready to move into the bigger brooder, just because there's so many in here. Which some of these are, wow, really getting large, which is kind of wild. And then up here, these are my actual purebred. So these are black copper Morans and barred rock. So I bought these barred rocks for $1, and I hatched the eggs for the black copper Moran. And they say that they are hard to hatch, but I had 100% hatch rate. Actually, look, you can see my quail. They actually have been really, really good. I'm not gonna lie, I like them. They're good little guys. They're nice. See, he's a good boy. I'm assuming it's a boy. Probably isn't. But if you saw the one that I was talking about, you can imagine this has like the white wingtips and the same white around its face, which is not helping me much. Maybe they were, I don't know. I have no clue what I hatched. But I just used these little water. See, it just kicked on because I have it set. You can't really read that well. But I have it set to where once it hits 32.5 degrees Celsius, it kicks back on. These guys are about, I don't know, a little over a week old. I think the quail are a little longer now. They're like 2 weeks old. How neat, though. But this is this brooder setup. So right now, currently, so you can kind of see. So I wrap the tarp and just staple it. You can actually see my tent gun right there. And I use this horse bedding, but I put it over this tarp that I've stapled all the way around, mainly to make it easier to clean. I have no clue if you'll be able to see this, but like right there is 102, which is about perfect. Anyways, so this is just my 4 foot by 4 foot brooder. I just have a piece of OSB, mainly so that I can lift it up and down just to get these guys in and out and change the water. I actually hang a 5-gallon bucket on this board. It goes all the way across. I need to put a screw there so it doesn't flip off. But I kind of upgraded my watering system before I did. Wow. So I upgraded the watering system by using just a 5-gallon bucket and these like little water cups. Gosh, hi buddy. Anyway, I'm trying to think anything else that I can possibly think of. I thought about covering my incubators. I feel like people make this a lot harder than it needs to be. But like, in theory, these are good for 10 amps. I'm just going to go back onto this. These are good for 10 amps. Each 100 watt bulb I think pushes like 0.83 amps, 120 volts. I think it's 0.4 something, 0.43 at 230 volts, something like that. Depends if you're residential. Anyways, so this is just my my beginner little 2x4 brooder. Just makes it a little easier for me to adjust it. But there's no reason that I couldn't use these same controllers on this and have a plug. Boy. And have a plug-in. Go to the controller so you can plug it in, and then have, instead of it going to the lights, just having an external plug-in for these heat lamps. And then I can just throw the same temp probe on a piece of 2x4 and throw it under the light. I do that so it tries to measure the height, but then they end up just laying on it. I've tried to get it to where it was the height of the chicken's head, but that doesn't work. So I actually, that's one thing I need to get something figured out. I thought about maybe even stapling it to like the top of like one of those like little rubber duckies. Hey buddy. But this works for now. I actually need about 3 more of these, but it's a lot better than paying $1,000 for like a hatch time big, stand up. Granted, those are all inclusive. They have the watering system where you have a 5-gallon bucket at the top and water nipples, and there's actually no reason I can't just do that myself. I still have thought about it. Maybe I will. But again, I'm not a big fan of heat plates. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, the problem with a heat plate is they can't leave the heat for that long. Whereas like you can have some of the heat getting to them while they're drinking water or they're in their little feeder, which I've just been using these sterile pans that I got from work. They love them. I love them. I just really love that they can walk around in there instead of scratching around in their gravity feeder. But this is this. I can show you my second size, my third size really. So it goes 2x4, 4x4, 4x8. Don't bite me. 4x8 with a little flat door, big enough that I can actually climb in there and walk around. That's for my slightly bigger chicks. I say slightly, but I have some meat birds out there which are huge. You have no clue how fast these meat birds grow. But this is just my beginning brooder setup, which all these show. The thing that I like, again, about these porcelain heat elements is that it turns the light on, right? So they have heat, even though this reads 31.4, right? And as that element, it heats up, and it's heating up the area below it, the other light's on the whole time. So then once it reaches temp, technically, it's kind of like a steak. Once it reaches temp, it shuts off, but it continues to heat up. So it still produces some heat. So there is still more heat in there. And I think like in the middle, there's a discrepancy of like 10, 15 degrees from the middle to the actual underneath the lights. Because that's the hardest part about these low watt bulbs and low watt heat elements, is they throw a smaller circle, but it heats this entire area. So like they can walk around in 80 degrees and have a hot spot of 90, or 75 is not that big of a difference. Whereas this brooder, it'll be 100 degrees under the light, and like, I was just saying it, let's check it. Okay, so it is 57 out right now, 102 underneath the light. It is 70 degrees in the corner, which isn't that big of a deal, but still 30 degrees between the corner and the light. And this is again one of these 100 watt bulbs. I think that's a 125 watt bulb. It's all preference. It depends how many chicks you plan on having. Whereas like obviously you're gonna want a bigger bulb, bigger area, more heat. They're a fire risk, but really not that big of a fire risk if you do it correctly. But I think that's all I can think of. I can show you my time lapse of me building it. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. I actually posted a video preemptively about how to wire these because they're kind of tricky. They're really not that hard, but it's just, it controls the neutral. So the same wire that powers this powers the lights, and then the neutral from the light is the neutral. Like, that's the on-off switch on these guys. Get over there. Yeah. But for now, these were just practice chicks. I hate saying it like that. They're probably going to just go to an auction because I don't think anyone really wants a barred yarn mix. They're Australorp barred rock mix, a lot of them, or even the lavender Orpington barred rock, which I don't know if you know this, but lavender or blue is black in lavender gene. So if it's black, it will throw black. So a black bird and a lavender Orpington throws a black Orpington essentially, which is hilarious because you would never know. They would just look like a fluffier Australorp. Quit biting. You're not mean. You're a good boy. But that's all I can think of for these, especially right now. I kind of wish I cleaned this up a little bit. I really kind of wish I had multiple waters because, man, they go through the waters and they really dust it up. I thought about making one of those raised grid deals so that they can't kick around the pellets and get it in there and get it all nasty. Honestly, I should do that. I might do that tomorrow. How hard is that? Buddy, you're just soaking it up. You would not know that this was a shelter cat. Like, he is a good cat. You good boy. Yeah, but I put a door in here just the other day, a flap door so he can get in and out. After we got him, I kept him in here for a week before I let him run around outside, and he is living his best life. Oh no, where you locked on? Nothing? Okay. Alright. I probably rambled enough. Alright, so the game plan for today, I'm going to actually remake a brooder. I'm going to have a stand-up brooder with 3 2-foot slots. I went ahead and bought these. They're like little, what do you call those? Like a bulb socket, but they're on 2 wires. Anyways, my plan is that I can raise and lower those since they're on wires. It's not like a direct mount system. Anyways, you can actually sell these controllers and run your electricity through the controller, and they have a temp gauge and they can shut on and off and keep it a certain temperature inside, roughly. But I don't know, we'll see where we go. I mean, they're pretty cheap. They're like $10 for 4 of them. But I'm gonna start ripping plywood.